Last year, as Jane was driving home from dinner with friends, she was hit by a drunk driver, causing her to spin into a street lamp, and the impact nearly killed her. She spent several weeks in the hospital, surrounded by loved ones who didn't know if she would make it. Luckily, she survived, but she hasn't been the same since. It's been a year since the accident. After being recommended to a psychologist, she was diagnosed with PTSD. 70% of adults will experience a traumatic event at some point. However, only 20% of those people will develop PTSD, like Jane. PTSD stands for Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. According to the American Psychological Association, it arises after someone lives through or witnesses what they deem a life-threatening event. During the traumatic event, the survivor may have been terrified or defenseless. As a result of this occurrence, individuals diagnosed with PTSD live with uncomfortable and debilitating symptoms. These symptoms fall into 3 categories: reliving the trauma, avoiding activities or environments resembling the site of the traumatic event, and heightened physiological arousal, such as being easily startled. Many survivors also experience survivor guilt if others were present at the traumatic event. As the name suggests, individuals who have survived a traumatic event feel guilty about living since others did not. Due to personal anecdotes or extensive media coverage, many associate PTSD with combat veterans. We shouldn't ignore this group's sacrifice, as 7% of veterans will develop the disorder. Unfortunately, however, others with differing traumatic experiences may also develop PTSD, namely varying traumatic events like physical or sexual assault, natural disasters, and violent accidents or incidents like car crashes, fires, or terrorist attacks also cause PTSD. There are also gender differences in the prevalence of PTSD. Women are twice as likely as men to get the disorder due to sexual assault being a substantial risk factor. Further, PTSD is highest among racial minorities, particularly African Americans. Like anything else, though, there are differences between people with PTSD, which is paramount to keep in mind to avoid making generalizations or assumptions. For example, not everyone with PTSD experiences violent or visible outbursts. Indeed, many survivors may suffer in silence. Due to this, there may be individuals with PTSD present in the workplace, unbeknownst to anyone else. At work, PTSD may cause symptoms that affect an individual's work productivity. There are some things employers can do to assist their employees with PTSD. As always, the first step is communication with the employees to assess their situation. This disclosure will help to educate all parties involved. Additionally, this lays the foundation for cultivating trust with the employee, which tends to be hard for individuals with PTSD. After this, it may be necessary to make adjustments to improve employee work performance. Guidelines should also be in place in case an employee becomes triggered. A trigger is a stimulus that reminds someone with PTSD of a traumatic event. For example, a car crash scene in a movie or TV show. Becoming triggered is sometimes used jokingly by people without PTSD to allude to a minor inconvenience. When possible, employees with PTSD should make their triggers known to their employer and team members. These adjustments may take a while to get used to. Still, it's worthwhile to preserve if an employee needs help. By taking the time to implement these changes, employers prove to their staff that they're dedicated to promoting a workplace culture that welcomes open conversations about mental health and illness. As a result, employees will feel safer in their work environment. As always, though, employers can only do so much, so employees with PTSD should consider seeking professional help. Their overall life satisfaction stands to benefit.